Coming up on NTC News, the debate over kneeling during the anthem stirs up emotions here on campus. Plus, tuition is on the rise as fewer students are enrolling at Illinois universities. We'll take a closer look as to why. And later, we sit down with NIU Huskies quarterback to talk about the impressive start to their season. NTC News starts now.
You're watching NTC News, DeKalb County's only television news source, on the campus of Northern Illinois University and from the Northern Television Center. This is NTC News Tonight.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Carl Reevy.
And I'm Bea Garcia. It's Thursday, September 28th.
It was the silence heard around the nation, an act that has empowered many and enraged others. Last year, San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick started a protest against social inequality by kneeling during the national anthem before games. A year later, other players joined in on the demonstrations. Last weekend, President Donald Trump took aim at the protesters and encouraged NFL owners to fire any players refusing to stand during the national anthem. In response, the majority of the Pittsburgh Steelers stayed in the tunnel during the anthem at Sunday's game against the Bears, while other NFL teams locked arms in unison. The move drew criticism from those who saw this as a sign of disrespect.
We asked NIU students today to share their thoughts on the controversy, and this is what they had to say.
I think players just, they have the right to do whatever they want. I was reading up on it the other day, and they actually said it's about race. It has nothing to do with disrespecting the flag or the military.
I feel that to some extent it's disrespectful. They play the anthem so you stand. They play it so you respect the veterans who couldn't be there today. And that's the stance I take on it. I don't stand because I necessarily support everything that's going on in the country today, but I support for the veteran who couldn't be at the game today. And I support all of the things and all the progress that we've made as a country, both socially and technologically, in the past 50 years. And that's why I'm proud to be an American, and I'll stand for the anthem when it's played.
I feel like that's a way to raise your voice on just the matter that's going on right now. You're able to express how you feel, and it's your right. It's your right to do whatever you want to do in this country.
As a president, he should know that all these statues and the national anthem is something that's saying that everything that happened is okay, and it's not. So now that the NFL is realizing and they're taking this time to broadcast it and make it known, it's their right. They should be able to. If they don't agree, they don't agree.
Let's send it over to the debate desk.
Thanks, guys. Joining me now is political science professor Mitch Pickerel, journalism major Shada Cook, and political science major Joe Bojanowski. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll get right into it. So, Joe, what's your stance on the NFL, or the players in the NFL taking a knee during the national anthem?
Well, from a personal perspective, I've known people who have served in the military and our nation's armed forces, and to a certain extent, when they play the national anthem, it's not to support everything that's going on in America per se. It's for the veteran who couldn't be there today to watch the game. So I do it out of respect for our military. As opposed to the players doing it, their message is very clear. I believe that their actions off the field need to be more prevalent and more often than it is now.
Okay. All right, Shada?
For me, from a personal perspective, I actually know people who have died from unjustly killings by police officers, and I know people who will never be able to watch another single game or watch their kids play football or throw a football. So I think that a protest is something to bring awareness to a different issue. And I think the message of the protest, as we want to call it, is being smudged, it's being missed, it's being lost, it's being misinterpreted. Has nothing to do with the national anthem, has nothing to do with any veterans, but how else do you cause awareness? When everyone is supposed to be quiet and everyone is supposed to be paying attention to one thing, we take a knee. We take a knee for Eric Garner, we take a knee for everyone, we take a knee. And the conversation is happening, so that's the purpose to, you know, drive conversation, but it's getting lost. It has nothing to do with the flag, has nothing to do with veterans. There's actually a quote from Colin Kaepernick that he told the NFL media where he says, "Why would I stand and salute a country that oppresses black people?" And I think that the oppressor cannot tell the oppressed people how to protest the oppression. I just don't think I just really don't think that that's valid.
Okay. All right. Mitch, do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, as a constitutional law guy, I'm pro free speech. So to me, I think the issue has actually kind of expanded into a free speech issue because the protests have grown in response to the criticisms. And so I think it's just as much about talking about the importance of free speech in a free society and democracy at this point as it is the substance behind the original protests.
Okay. So Mitch, could you explain a little bit why people might be saying this is illegal and players who protest should be fired since they are at work while they are protesting?
Sure, it's kind of a complicated issue. A lot of people want to bring the First Amendment in, but it would be very difficult for it to become a First Amendment issue because it's not the government. Although the president has said he doesn't like it, he hasn't used the force of government to try to prohibit it. That would become a free speech issue. So at this point, it would really be an employment issue, an employment law issue, or a contract issue, that would just really be a matter of contract law and the actual content of the contract, both the players' union contract with the NFL and individual contracts.
Okay. All right. So Shada, how has the protest changed in your opinion since Colin first took the knee in 2016?
I'll just expand on it a bit that I just spoke about. It's just being lost. It's being smudged. Colin Kaepernick, from his mouth, stated that he kneels during the anthem to protest the oppression of black people. He said that. So I think that grasping from it what you want and grasping from it what you feel like will support your stance is just a little bit, it's just a privilege. It's a privilege that that someone could say, oh, well, it's disrespectful to veterans, when he's clearly saying, oh, well, this country is disrespectful to black people, and there's evidence. So it's just kind of like, it's just being mismatched. And I hope that from this conversation, and I hope that many other conversations can just kind of reel it back in, because I think it's being lost in the media as far as veterans and military, and I just think it's being so lost. So I think that people should do their best to just kind of reel it back in. I don't have a problem talking about the issue, but let's talk about the issue, not the issue you have with the issue, because then it just gets lost.
Okay. Joe, do you have anything to add to that at all?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the media, because I do believe that the media sensationalizes events that happen between African American people and white or Caucasian police officers. But there hasn't been a story that has been sensationalized where it's an African American officer shooting another African American officer, which does happen, or a white officer shooting an unarmed white person. And of course that happens, but it's not sensationalized, it's not brought to light. So if you talk about police brutality, why isn't it that we're talking about all police brutality? And I believe that was Colin Kaepernick's original message, and we've been talking about police brutality since maybe 2013, 2014 with Ferguson, Missouri, and all of that, and Trayvon Martin, of course. And so there are events where those are completely unjustifiable events. But I believe that you should be blaming the individual officer for their racist, biased, or whatever it might be that led them to pull the trigger, rather than the entire police force, because I believe that there are great people on America's police force.
I agree as well.
You know.
I agree as well. My uncle is a police officer. I think it's funny that you said that we've been talking about police brutality since 2013, when everything that I am has been talking about police brutality since the beginning of time. My grandfather was a Black Panther, and police brutality is it's in his blood. He doesn't, that's all he knows. So I think that absolutely we can talk about that specific officer and what kind of prejudices they had to lead them to pull the trigger. But I think the issue is the fact that the officer goes unpunished. I think that's the issue, because yeah, people have biases, people have prejudices all the time, but when it goes to high court and there's nothing being done about it, that's the issue that we have. Absolutely, if a black officer shoots a Caucasian person, jail. No paid leave, none of that, just going to jail. But I think that the fact that there haven't been any indictments in cases, we absolutely need to sensationalize that. That is an issue.
I don't mean to cut you off here,
no
but Mitch, do you have anything else to add to that at all?
Well, I'll take a little different approach. I would make a couple points. One is, of course, the national anthem wasn't even, it doesn't have to be performed at professional sporting events. It wasn't done so before World War II. It was really done, during the Cold War. And so that is a viewpoint. The national anthem's a viewpoint. So I think a protest against the national anthem expresses a different viewpoint. If you don't want those viewpoints expressed in the football stadium, and then probably don't play the national anthem. And my second point would be that I think, going back to the free speech issue, is what I see. I see criticism of the players as being a form of censorship, the argument that they ought to be fired for speech, but we see attacks on free speech all over. And so I hope we also can bring awareness to this, because we get attacks on free speech from the left on college campuses a lot just as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys for joining us here today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join. Back to you guys at the desk.
NIU and the City of DeKalb are teaming up to expand Wi-Fi access in the downtown area. City Council members unanimously agreed on the deal this week. Internet access will be available from Carroll Avenue to 4th Street. The city agreed to pay $30,000 of the $85,000 estimated cost. Mayor Jerry Smith says he's excited about how this will help residents.
At the October 19th Board of Trustees meeting, Acting University President Lisa Freeman will request a 3% pay increase for eligible employees. She unveiled her plan in her State of the University address last week. Freeman said she hopes to improve student enrollment and will be donating $25,000 to scholarship funds for the university. This is the largest donation ever by an acting president. She announced a plan to make transportation easier by merging the Husky Line bus system with DeKalb Public Transportation, and unveiled an initiative called the Taste of NIU with the goal of getting alumni more involved in campus events and activities. Freeman says the across-the-board pay increase is better late than never. Freeman says the goal is to have employees see the pay increase by December.
Enrollment at Illinois colleges are sliding while tuition is on the rise. Adam Carr joins us now with more on that story. Adam?
That's right. Illinois enrollment is down on average 5% for public universities. The rest of the states in the Midwest are up anywhere from 4 to 15%. That's according to an article featured in the Northern Star this week that addresses why Illinois public education is taking a hit. Joining us is now Northern Star News contributor James Krause. James, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Now, you got not only data from NIU, but from all kinds of Illinois schools. How long did it take to put this together?
Not as long, thanks to there are a lot of websites out there with public information about enrollment in the universities, tuition level, like costs and things like that. So thankfully, it didn't take me, sometimes some articles like this might take a month to make. Luckily, I was able to make this in about a week.
Now, there's a really nice graphic on the front page that really breaks down enrollment in the Midwest. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So Chicago Magazine was one of those websites that provided some enrollment numbers in an article they had. And it showed, increases at all of our neighboring states, sort of in the Midwest, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Michigan. Meanwhile, we're really on our own in the Midwest in terms of we have declining enrollment, and that's for various reasons.
One of those reasons for a long time was the budget. You spoke with State Representative Bob Pritchard. Does he have confidence that now that we have a budget, it'll fix the issue?
Yes and no. The reason he mentioned that a budget was passed in the first place because S&P was going to put us at a junk credit rating, and to avoid that, the state finally passed a budget. And he mentioned to me, there's still optimism, but there's still the worry of we wouldn't have one next year. So it's kind of a hot and cold situation right now in terms of if we can have a state budget.
Now, other than the budget, what are some other factors that are leading to our decline in public education enrollment?
Well, another big factor is kind of I guess you'd say the competitiveness between other schools, because, schools from, these neighboring states, Iowa, Michigan, Wisconsin, they're looking at us having problems with enrollment, and they're saying, well, we'll pick up, these kids, we'll give them our in-state tuition rate to go to our schools in a different state.
So you're telling me that out-of-state schools are letting Illinois residents pay in-state school tuitions for places like Wisconsin and Michigan and stuff like that?
Yeah, some schools are doing it to some students, and a primary factor into that is also that Illinois' tuition costs are going up at a higher rate than our neighboring schools. I think overall, I saw one number that was Northeastern Illinois has gone up in the past 10 years by 112%, while meanwhile, I think the next highest school in the Midwest averages at about 62%. That's Michigan.
Wow. So you spoke with Sol Jensen, NIU's Vice President of Enrollment Management, Marketing, and Communications. What does Mr. Jensen feel about future enrollment? Does he feel there's a bright future? Does he feel it might be a little more bleak?
Well, I think the whole university as a whole is optimistic, about the future. They see that there are areas they are improving at. Freshman enrollment was up 3% this year, but they said there were still some areas for change. One thing Jensen pointed out to me is he wants to bring students that are thinking about going to NIU on campus for on-campus visits to really get a sense of what NIU and DeKalb have to offer.
Well, James, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on to talk to us. Back to you guys.
Former NIU President William Monat is dead at 92. Monat was living in Florida, where he died Saturday. He joined the NIU staff as a political science professor before taking the role of president in 1978. He worked at NIU for 21 years. Monat also taught at Wayne State University, Penn State University, and the City University of New York. His funeral is Friday at the South Florida National Cemetery.
NIU says the university's Title IX guidelines will not be changing. This is in response to U.S. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos's announcement. She says the complaint process now requires a higher standard of proof for wrongdoing. These changes will undo the guidelines made by former President Barack Obama. Title IX training is required for all NIU students and staff. Students can go online and complete the training on Blackboard between October 1st and December 1st.
We're edging closer toward fall temperatures. Nicole Ryan has a quick look at the weather.
Thanks, Carl. Fall weather is here for the moment. Don't pack up your shorts and flip-flops quite yet because warmer temperatures are coming back next week. I'm going to have more for you guys later in the show.
Coming up next on NTC News, the silk-robed icon who launched Playboy magazine dies at 91.
And we'll hear NIU's response to the practice of hazing.
Forty 40% of food in America never gets eaten. When we start to think differently about our food, we can get a lot more out of it.
Yes, but see, you don't have a college degree.
Well, no, but
okay, well...
Wait. Before you skip over me, can you at least hear me out? No, I do not have a college degree, but I've been working 2 jobs since the age of 18. I've been doing internships while raising my little brother, and any moment that I can spare, I'm studying, just trying to better myself. Okay, I'm ready for this.
Wow. I'd love to hear more.
Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org.
After 15 years of smoking, Eva Marie quit. There's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
Playboy founder Hugh Hefner is dead at the age of 91. Playboy Enterprises says he passed away in his Beverly Hills home from natural causes. Hefner began publishing Playboy magazine in his home in 1953. It became the largest selling men's magazine in the world. Several celebrities paid tribute on social media to Hefner after his death was announced late last night.
President Donald Trump is lifting restrictions on an old shipping law in hopes of getting much-needed supplies to the hurricane-ravaged island of Puerto Rico. The Jones Act waiver will go into effect immediately but will expire after 10 days. Earlier this week, the president had said that there was no need to lift the restrictions. Thousands of Puerto Ricans are still without power and access to fuel.
Meanwhile, the president had some words about his newest travel ban, and Republicans are vying for last-minute support of an Obamacare replacement bill. Jesse Schlacks has more in this week's Political Pit Stop.
Thanks, guys. Another last-ditch effort by Republican senators to replace Obamacare could soon be dead. This comes after GOP Senator Susan Collins said on Monday she will vote no to the Graham-Cassidy bill. The Republican says the overhaul plan doesn't do enough to cover pre-existing conditions and says its proposed cuts to Medicaid are too stiff. The measure needs 50 caucus votes by the end of this week to pass. North Korea's foreign minister says President Donald Trump's threatening tweets to the nation amount to a, quote, declaration of war. Minister Ri Yong-ho recently said at the United Nations this means the Korean military has a legal right to shoot down U.S. military planes. He says that's even if they're not in North Korea's airspace. A Pentagon spokesman says in a response, if the foreign nation doesn't stop its provocative actions, it will provide the president options to deal with North Korea. Trump recently tweeted the nation, quote, won't be around much longer if the foreign minister echoes rhetoric from leader Kim Jong-un. President Donald Trump is ramping up his restrictions on foreign travel from 8 countries. The changes replace a now expired provision from the previous ban. Chad, North Korea, and Venezuela now face restrictions. That's on top of 5 majority Muslim countries from 2 prior executive orders. Trump says the changes help preserve national security and safety.
The travel ban, the tougher, the better.
Phased-in changes will begin October 18th. Finally, controversy over the use of private email accounts by government officials reemerges. The investigation into alleged Russian meddling in the presidential election shows at least 6 White House advisors, including Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon, used private accounts to send work-related emails. Hillary Clinton's use of a private email account was a centerpiece of Trump's campaign. Policy requires government emails be publicly available. That's all for this week's Political Pit Stop. Back to you guys.
Students and residents are putting in their 2 cents about the Annie Glidden North Revitalization Plan. The 2-year plan is meant to make the neighborhoods safer. In a meeting yesterday, residents said their concerns are crime and a lack of transportation. The group discussed Phase 1 of the 4-phase revitalization. Officials say the plan will be funded by City of DeKalb over the course of 2 fiscal years and could cost $83,000. The next meeting is scheduled for November. Flu season is almost here. To help citizens prepare, the DeKalb County Health Department is offering flu shots at their facility. The city accepts Medicare, Medicaid, and many PPO health insurances. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention recommends everyone 6 months and older receive a vaccination every year. You can stop by the facility from Monday through Friday and check their website for their hours of operation.
NIU hosted a suicide awareness meeting last week where students heard tragic stories of loss and inspiring stories of hope. NTC reporter Adam Carr was there.
Active Minds NIU held a suicide awareness and mental health panel discussion. Jordan Burnham was brought in as a featured speaker. Burnham tried to take his life 10 years ago, but miraculously survived. He now spent his days touring schools across the country, sharing his story to let others know that they are not alone. He is often called a hero for his willingness to share his journey, allowing others struggling with depression to open up in times of need.
I did an interview with People magazine, and the title was under The Heroes Among Us. And man, it bothered me, because I don't necessarily consider myself a hero. I just always wanted to be able to help people.
After the presentation, a panel of 5 experts came on to take questions from the audience. Included on the panel was NIU Student Association Senate Speaker Christine Wang. Wang, along with Acting President Lisa Freeman, resurrected the No Shame campaign. She is very happy to have a mental health advocate come in to share his story and let people know that it's okay to not be okay.
And so for him to come out and say, I've dealt with all of this, you're not alone in dealing with this. This is not a unique thing, this is common, really helped to drive home the point that it's okay.
Burnham loves his job of traveling the world, helping young adults with mental illness through their roughest times. But he also yearns for a day where his services are no longer needed.
I hope in 20 years there are so many people speaking up and telling their stories that there's going to be schools I'll call them and say, hey, we already got kids talking and speaking and telling their stories.
Burnham wants people to remember that mental illness doesn't go away, and anyone fighting with mental illness should never be afraid to speak out. With NTC News, I'm Adam Carr.
Active Minds, Helping Huskies Thrive, and the Counseling and Consultation Services are all local outlets for help with mental health.
In the wake of a recent hazing scandal at Wheaton College involving their football team, NIU officials took a hard stance on the practice. NTC reporter Manolito Pendleton has more on an event that was held on campus for Hazing Prevention Week.
More than 200 students recently gathered at the NIU Convocation Center to attend a conversation on hazing. Most of the students in attendance were involved in athletics or Greek life.
The goal would be for students to come away with a greater knowledge about hazing and an understanding of why hazing is detrimental to the student experience.
The event, organized by students, looked to spread awareness while attempting to stop the stereotypes around hazing. Senior Felix Castillo says hazing isn't limited to one group.
Our main focus was to try to incorporate the different areas where hazing occurs, so within athletics, within band, within fraternity and sorority life. So when looking for a speaker and organizing this whole thing, we're making sure that our speaker touch base on all that, because hazing doesn't only occur within fraternity and sorority life as it's portrayed.
The conversation was more than just warnings about hazings and the consequences after. It got personal when the speaker, Tracy Maxwell, revealed that she was a victim of hazing. She explained how she was hazed and also gave some insight on what hazing really is.
It's very secretive. It's very traditional. It's very ingrained. It's been around for over 100 years, and we don't really know much about it. The research, the very little research that's been done has been done recently, and we're just starting to understand more about all the different facets of the problem.
Not all people who have been hazed know that they were hazed. The people who were victims of hazing all have differing effects of the hazing, even years after the incident.
NIU has a zero-tolerance hazing policy.
Temperatures are cooling off a bit in the area.
Nicole Ryan has more on whether fall conditions are here to stay.
Great, thanks guys. Yeah, so it's finally fall season. I know I was really excited to pull out my boots and my sweaters. However, it's not gonna last very long. We are gonna be going back up into the 80s later this week. But first, we're gonna take a look outside right now. If we were to go out there right now, it would be a perfect fall day with temperatures in the low 60s, with wind only about 10 miles an hour and clear conditions. However, it is a little bit humid with it in 52%. Taking it to tonight, temperatures are gonna drop to about 50 degrees. It's gonna be partly cloudy with calm winds. Moving into Friday, we're gonna reach a high of 68 degrees. It's gonna be sunny, but it is going to be a little bit windy, so if you have plans for Friday, make sure you bring a jacket with those winds. Friday night, it's gonna drop to a low of 43 degrees. Winds are gonna calm down a little bit at about 5 to 10 miles an hour, but it is gonna be mostly clear. Saturday, it is gonna be warm with a 68-degree high, sunny and calm winds. Saturday evening, we are gonna drop to about 44 degrees, so it's gonna be chilly, but the winds are light. Sunday is gonna be the warmest day of the weekend. It's gonna be 72 degrees for our high, but it will be pretty windy with winds going 10 to 20 miles per hour. Sunday evening, it's gonna be partly cloudy, again, kinda chilly, 54 degrees with 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. And so coming out of the weekend, on Monday, we are gonna be going back into those we're going to be going to 83 degrees again. And then for our, threw me off. All right, so Tuesday, it's going to be a high of 87 degrees, reaching a low of 61, back down to 82 degrees on Wednesday for our high and our low of 58. And then Thursday, going to be a high of 77 with a high of 56. That's all for weather. Let's take it back to the desk.
NIU hopes to expand cultural competence and heighten awareness at its Bring It to the Table event tonight. Bring It to the Table is part of the school's series of diversity dialogues where participants discuss the roots of political beliefs. The event is at 6 tonight in the Altgeld Auditorium.
A former network correspondent and NBC Chicago reporter Usher Qureshi will be visiting the Northern Television Center on Monday. The award-winning journalist will be speaking with students about his experiences and what it's like covering the news in this media age. Qureshi is also a documentary filmmaker. All are welcome to attend the event at 11 a.m. at 123 Stadium Drive. Coming up next on NTC News, he's the man of the hour. Huskies quarterback Daniel Santa Catarina tells us what makes him tick.
And he may be the guy to turn the NIU soccer program around. We met up with Coach Ryan Swan. Those stories coming up in sports.
You made her college years possible. Opening that education savings account when she was little, spearheading campus tours, and deciphering financial aid. If you can ace planning for college, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it here. So what are you waiting for? Just go to the site.
My parents weren't fluent in English, so in school I had to be independent and take initiative, and that's how I handle every project I get.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation.
America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. Why would you do that?
Probably okay isn't okay. Call a cab, a car, or a friend.
Good choice.
The football team has another big test this weekend, and we are back. It's time to move over to the sports side with NTC sports reporter Austin Hansen.
Thanks, guys. We had a pretty busy week in sports as we look to highlight some key performances. Let's start with some football. The football team faces a big test this weekend when they take on the 19th-ranked San Diego State Aztecs on Saturday. The Huskies are looking to keep their momentum from their big win against the Nebraska Cornhuskers 2 weeks ago, despite coming off their bye week. The Husky defense has been dominant so far this season, allowing just 50 points through 3 games this whole year. The defense has also scored on 2 interceptions this season and has a total of 6 picks. Sophomore Daniel Santa Catarina will be starting at quarterback for the 3rd straight game and is 3-0 as the Husky starter in his career. Game time in San Diego is set for 9:30 p.m. Central Time. The name Santa Catarina may be familiar to fans of football because Daniel's not the only one who has made headlines. Mateo Avila caught up with the quarterback to get to know him off the field for this week's Leader of the Pack.
NIU quarterback Daniel Santa Catarina's Husky blood runs deep, and he has grown as a leader because of it. His brother Michael played football for the Huskies for 4 years and helped lead NIU to a bowl game back in 2014. Daniel watched his brother closely and has used him as a mentor and an inspiration.
My brother, I looked up to him my whole life. I remember at like dinner, he would order something and I would always want to order the same thing he did. And that was, the same thing was true for sports, you know, anything he did I wanted to do. And it turns out I went to the same college as him and kind of followed in his footsteps.
Despite a quiet demeanor, Daniel showed signs of leadership by enhancing his own skills, by taking constructive criticism and working hard to make changes to his game.
A lot of kids are loud and are always talking. A lot of kids are quiet. He's very quiet. But then every time you say you did this, correct it and do this, he applied the teaching and wanted the right information, which told me all I had to know about it.
The quarterback position has been a highly contested one across the board, but Daniel hasn't let that get in the way of his team's success. In fact, he says the relationship is different from what the average fan may believe.
It's probably weird for people outside of the relationship to understand with the quarterbacks, but it's not like you would think. That's one of my best friends, and no matter who's on the field, we are really supportive of each other and help each other.
In just his second eligible season, Daniel is now starting for the Huskies and has led NIU to some huge wins so far this season, including a win against Big Ten opponent Nebraska. Daniel's hard work ethic, along with his selflessness towards his teammates, leaves him as this week's leader of the pack. For NTC News, I'm Mateo Avila.
And joining Mateo now is NIU Husky quarterback Daniel Santacanaria. Mateo?
Thanks, guys. So like most freshmen, Daniel was redshirted his first year here to get better acclimated to college. So Daniel, going from a redshirt to now the starting quarterback, what are your thoughts about where you've gotten now?
It's been a long 2 years. The redshirt process, that's for sure. Like you said, most people go through. It's tough. It's you go in, you want to play, obviously, like everybody, and it's a tough year to get acclimated, but you need it. You know, you come in, you basically got your high school body still, and you got to get acclimated to the D1 to the level of play. So it's a good year to take for sure.
And you mentioned to me previously when we spoke last that you're a very busy guy. How do you balance class schedules with training and practice schedules?
It's really hard. You just get it done, though. You know, like today I had a couple tests today, and I have one tomorrow, and I have a project due Monday, and I have to play the game Saturday. And then I was kind of feeling sorry for myself, and I was like, come on, you know, and I just gotta fight through it, and there's no whining, you know. So you just gotta. What we do is a lot of people would want to play football for us. So you know, you just gotta suck it up a lot of times.
And you guys are coming off a big win against Nebraska. What were your expectations going into that game as the underdog?
We honestly didn't think we were an underdog. Maybe other people did. We didn't, and we respected Nebraska a ton, but we didn't. We thought we were the better team, and that's how we go in almost every game. So, well, we do go in every game thinking that. If you're not thinking that, then you're gonna get beat.
And like you said, you respected Nebraska. You have another respectable opponent coming this weekend with 19 ranked San Diego State. What are you guys looking to do to carry the momentum from the Nebraska win into this weekend?
Just take care of our business. Just same approach as always. Just execute the game plan, and hopefully just win the game just by listening to our coaches and doing what they tell us and not trying to do too much.
And so like we said, you were redshirted. Now that you're the starting quarterback, do you have any words of inspiration to football hopefuls looking to make the leap to D1 football?
Just keep doing what you do. You know, it's a long process, and just have fun. Really, it's just a sport at the end of the day. So just have fun with it and see where it takes you.
Well, Daniel, I want to thank you for joining us, and let's send it back to you guys at the desk.
Along with NTC News is a weekly sports broadcast called Top Shelf Sports, which will keep you up to date on the latest news in Husky athletics and everything happening in the Chicagoland area. This week, we sat down with NIU running back Jordan Huff to talk about the football team's impressive start to the season. Tune in to Top Shelf Sports, airs tomorrow after the news broadcast. The men's soccer team is looking to turn things around after a rough season last year and after a few changes. They're ready to get back on track. Ricardo Segura has more on the story.
The NIU men's soccer program has some new faces on the coaching staff this year after a few changes during the offseason. Early in the year, the Huskies named Ryan Swan as the new head coach. Before joining the soccer program, Swan coached at Drury University in Missouri for 8 seasons and looks to bring his expertise and energy to NIU.
I've been familiar with the program for a number of years, just running across some of these guys on the recruiting trails. I knew the old coaching staff, and so I think it's in a great location here in the Chicagoland area. There's a lot of good soccer here, and again, an opportunity to build a program back up to where it was before is a very exciting prospect for any coach, I think.
Coach Swan is very familiar with success as he has 4 appearances in the NCAA Division II tournament during his time as a Panther. Swan looks to continue prospering on the field with this Husky group and get them competing back at the national level.
He's bringing like a lot of different new stuff, like style of playing is really different from what we had before. We are like more offensive, we try to keep the ball a lot more than what we used to. I think it's great.
At this point in the season, Coach Swan is pleased with this young Husky team and the progress they have made. Swan is confident in the abilities and drive that this team possesses against any team that they face.
It's a very technical team. I think they've got the ability to possess the ball very well, and I think early here in the season we've seen that. I think we've outpossessed all but one of our opponents. So from a technical perspective, I think things are very good.
As the Huskies prepare for conference play in about 2 weeks against West Virginia, Swan looks to continue advancing with the help of the team's accountability and leadership. For NTC News, I'm Ricardo Segura.
1, 2, 3, go! The Cubs took on the Cardinals again last night, looking to win the NL Central for a 2nd straight year.
Number Bates in St.
John
Louis
Lackey was on the bump for the Cubbies. The big man pitched a gem, only giving up 1 run in 6 innings pitched. Lackey might have had some extra motivation in this one, hoping to close out the division in his old team's stadium. The 7th inning rolls around and completely changes the momentum of this one. Addison Russell gets the Cubbies on the board with a 3-run shot and puts them up 3-1. Addison Russell would get player of the game honors. A few batters later, Jason Hayward rips a double, scoring Javier Baez from second and extending the lead to 4-1. All of this happening with 0 outs. Tommy La Stella then shows off his opposite field hitting with a double in the same inning, pushing the lead to 5-1. Cubs fans were anxious in the 9th inning. With their team up 5-1, they were ready to explode. With 2 outs and a man on first, Wade Davis gets Randall Grichuk to fly out to deep center. Leonis Martin caught the pop-up, and a Cubtober was once again a reality. This is the 3rd straight year the Cubs have made the playoffs, and they look to defend their World Series championship. Now we go to the South Side, where the White Sox take on the Angels, who are vying for a wild card spot. We start in the bottom of the 4th inning when Nicky Delmonico drives the ball into the gap, sending in Jose Abreu from first, giving the Sox a 1-0 lead. From there, we go to the top of the 5th inning, where Cole Calhoun crushes a ball to deep center field, up and over the wall. Calhoun picks up his 18th home run of the season and ties up the ball game at 3. We pick it up in the 6th now, where Tim Anderson drives the ball up the middle to drive in a run and tie the game at 4. From there, we head into extra innings for some free baseball. Nicky Delmonico provides the heroics and sends a deep shot to right field for the game winner. This was Delmonico's 9th homer of the season, and it eliminates the Angels from playoff contention. This was the White Sox 65th win on the season. The Chicago Bears will be on the road tonight against the Green Bay Packers after their walk-off win against the Pittsburgh Steelers last Sunday. The Bears and Packers have the oldest rivalry in the NFL, dating all the way back to 1921. This will be the 195th meeting between these two teams, with the all-time series record tied at 94, 94, and 6. Jordan Howard is looking to build on Sunday's performance, where he ended the game with 166 total yards and 2 touchdowns, one of which being the game winner. Bears running back Tariq Cohen will continue to try and be that X factor behind Howard in the Bears offense. The 1-2 punch of these two is starting to catch a lot of opponents' attention. The Bears' defense will be tested against the pass-heavy Packers and Aaron Rodgers. The Bears are looking to climb to 500, while the Packers are looking to separate themselves in their division race. That will be it for NTC Sports, and as always, go Huskies. Let's send it back to the desk.
NTC News Tonight is produced and directed by students here at Northern Illinois University. For more on NTC News, look us up and like us on Facebook, and you can also check out our website.
We want to thank you all for being with us. In collaboration with WNIJ, we're going to leave you now with Dan Whitaker and the Shinebenders singing the song Texas. We will air Thursday night at 7 on 89.5 FM and WNIJ.org.
Texas team.